Muli mga kaibigan, ito po niyo likod, Dr. Jan sa ating programang Ang Laging Daan ni Doc Jan. Alam niyo po mga kaibigan, pagdating sa usapin ng kasaysayan, mga prominenteng tao, ang mga kaibigan po natin, ang mga mag-aaral ngayon at even mga historian, ay nakalimutan na po yata ang mga ah, politiko at mga statesman ng araw na talagang lumaban para sa ating bayan. Yung problema yata ngayon ang kasaysayan, history from the 70s, 80s, and even 60s, ay nakakalimutan ng pag-aralan ng ilan sa mga kabataan. At maging yung mga magulang ay hindi na yata na isasalin ang kanilang karunungan at kanilang mga karanasan dito sa mga batang ito at kanilang mga anak. Alam niyo po mga kaibigan, pag titignan natin yung ganong istorya, marami pong hindi nakakakilala sa ilan sa ating mga prominenteng tao, lalong-lalo na sa panahon ni dating Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos at even nung EDSA Revolution. Alam niyo po, minsan po pag sinabi na EDSA Revolution, interim batasang pambansa, ano ba yung interim batasang pambansa? Ano ba yung assemblyman? At ano ba yung pinaglalaban ng mga tao o mga patriotiko at statesman ng araw? Ngayon pong episode ng Ang Laging Daan ni Doc Chan ngayon, nag-imbita po tayo ng isang guest na malaki po ang kanyang na-contribute sa kasaysayan ng ating bayan. Pero nakakalungkot nga lang po, tila po yata ang ilan sa mga historian at mga libro ng kasaysayan ay hindi yata naisulat ang kanyang pangalan. Lalong-lalo na yung kanyang mga pinaglaban ng mga panahon ng martial law at lalong-lalo ng diktadura at lalong-lalo na nung EDSA Revolution at kung paano naging pangulo si Ginang Cory Aquino. Siguro po ang ating pong guest ay isang abogado na masasabi nating laging pro bono at nag-aabono. At siya po palagi ay talagang masasabi nating batikan na talagang di kalibre, di kampanilya. Pero sa ilan po sa ating mga kababayan ay hindi po siya kilala. Ang ating pong guest ay wala pong iba kundi si Attorney Homobono Adasa, Bono Adasa. Magandang araw, Attorney.
John,
John.
Dr. Chupi. Yes. Maganda yung sinabi mo kanina. Pero wala namang interes ang tao yata dito sa bansa natin ngayon sa kasaysayan. Yung mga senador, mga congressmen, mga governors, ang interest niyan, pera eh.
Sige.
Walang interest yan sa kasaysayan at walang interest sa kabutihan ng ating bayan.
Sige po. Matanong po natin muna ngayon, sino po ba yung isang Bono Adasa?
Well, si Bono Adasa comes from Mindanao, no?
Mindanao.
And I come from that fabled island of Camiguin. Beautiful island. I think that's the most beautiful place on earth. On earth, because we have a lot of attractions. We have volcanoes of all kinds, springs of all kinds, hot, cold, salty, sweet, name it, and we've got it. An undersea cemetery, the only existing undersea cemetery in the world.
Ano ba yung mga nagawa ng Bono Adasa?
Well, ang nagawa ni Bono Adasa, simple lang. Nung araw, dito sa ating bansa, yung mga editor-in-chief ng Philippine Collegian ay iniimbita ng presidente ng Pilipinas. Itong lingkod nyo, Bono, ay 2 beses maging editor-in-chief ng Philippine Collegian, yung official student publication of the University of the Philippines. No? That's an unbroken record, by the way, at UP until this day. You know? And then, during martial law, I fought the gods, meaning Marcos and company. And as a result of my fighting the gods, kinalaban ko sila. Nakulong ako. 1 year, 6 months, and 11 days in Camp Crame and Fort Aguinaldo. You know, I was the first honor among the political figures at the time because the valedictorian was Ninoy. He had 6 years. The salutatorian was Pepe Jokno for 20 months and me for 18 months and 11 days. So, being a political prisoner is a badge of honor. As a matter of fact, I'll cite you an example. When Angel Baking, one of the members of the Communist Politburo and was still working with the Foreign Office, was seated with a group of people in a conference in India, he was asked, by the way, were you ever a political prisoner? At the time, Baking was not a political prisoner, and he was told, I don't have any experience with respect to political imprisonment. You don't deserve to sit with us here. Everybody here is a political prisoner.
Paano kayo nag-start sa politika?
Well, I started as a politician in a sense. Well, my father was mayor of our town for more than 24 years. I would have started my career very early in 1962 if I did not marry my current wife. Because I have only one wife now.
Well, one current.
And he is still current for more than 40 years. You know, the elections of 63, Amang Rodriguez, the president of the Nacionalista Party, and at the time Senate President, sent no less than Senator Tolentino to Cagayan de Oro in 1962 with the end in view of proclaiming me as the NP candidate for governor of Misamis Oriental.
So your first position is what po?
Governor.
Governor agad.
Governor. But I would have been governor earlier if I did not marry my wife in 1962. My father was telling me, don't marry your wife now. You marry her after the elections because my father-in-law was the incumbent governor of Misamis Oriental.
So after governor, ano yung next?
Well, I became a member of parliament. No. One of 69. As governor, I was one of two.
Were you re-elected as governor?
No. Because my view always is 6 years is too long for a bad governor and just enough for a good
So what
one.
is your legacy as a governor?
As legacy, I built more than 2,000 shallow and deep wells. I built, I think, about 30 communal water systems. I also built roads up to the top of the mountains. No? Up to the top, my car could even reach the tip of the mountains of Misamis Oriental. You know, as governor, and to think that I was an opposition governor, I was fighting Marcos hard. I also built so many concrete bridges in my province. And more than that, I instilled into the people of Misamis Oriental that more than anything else in this world, other than God, is the people and the country.
Why did you run for assemblyman rather than re-elect as governor?
No, I didn't like to be re-elected as governor. I wanted to run for member of parliament. You know, I changed the term assemblyman
Wow, member of
because
parliament,
the
yeah.
term before was assemblyman, and the abbreviation was AS. I didn't
Asman.
like to be an AS of Marcos. So when I came in during the regular parliament, I was telling them, let's change that into MP, because in the parliamentary system, it's always member of parliament. So we changed that. I wanted to run because my slogan, one of my slogans before was this: today Mindanao, tomorrow the Philippines. Meaning that the experiments that I had in Mindanao, specifically Misamis Oriental, I wanted to bring to the country in order that the country would be better.
So why Mindanao first?
Mindanao first, because that's where I come from. Country is always reflected by your place of origin. No? Most people have not even gone out of their barangay. Me, I've gone out, of course, several times. So Mindanao was my starting point. If I could build something in Mindanao, I could build something for the country, because Mindanao will become a model.
When you
for
were a
the
member
country.
of the parliament, what is your landmark legislation?
My landmark legislation was a number.
A number.
Number of them. One of them is the Omnibus Election Code. The original of the Omnibus Election Code was presented by Leone Perez, Senator Leone Perez, who was a member of parliament and who was an expert in election law. But as a head of the opposition, since I was chairman of the committee of the opposition on revision of laws and constitutional amendments, I introduced changes in that Omnibus Election Code, which can be remembered up to this day.
But the election code is not being followed.
Yeah, nobody follows the election code, especially the COMELEC.
The COMELEC.
Especially the candidates for Congress, Senate, Governor, Mayor. Nobody follows the election law. That's our problem.
So why have an election if there is no election code that is to be followed?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in the last election, under the PICO system brought here by Venezuela through Mr. Flores, the COMELEC amended the election law, violated the election law, and we had an election which really was in effect a failure of election, because they did not follow the election law and therefore they violated the law. So how could there be a legal election when they have violated the law? And you know, I got into trouble because of that.
Yeah.
You know, I filed cases before the Supreme Court. It's still pending against the COMELEC and several other people. I filed also a case before the Ombudsman involving the COMELEC, GMA 7, Channel 2, Philippine Daily Inquirer, the survey groups,
Okay, attorney.
including the COMELEC. And that got me into trouble. Now, in mainstream media, I don't even get to have a chance for an interview. If I'm interviewed, I speak, but there are no words coming out from my
And you
mouth.
would be cut. Okay, attorney.
That's right.
Now, we're now on the first segment of our discussions, and later on, sa ating pangalawang bahagi, ay mas lalo pa natin kikilalanin si Attorney Bono Adasa at saka malalaman po natin ang kanyang mga advokasya at mga pinaglalaban. Mga kaibigan, nandito po ulit tayo sa ating programang Ang Laging Daan ni Doc Jan. On the first part, we discussed about who Attorney Bono Adasa is. And mas marami pa tayong malalaman sa kanya. Marami po siyang mga naisulat na libro. At yung iba po, hindi yata binabasa yung mga libro na ito. At sasabihin nila, what's the use of reading the book when we could play Dota or ngayon yung Facebook and everything na kung saan talaga yung edukasyon yata ng mga kabataan, lalong-lalo na sa kasaysayan, ay tila yata nakakalimutan na ngayon ng edukasyon sa pag-aaral ng kasaysayan. Ang kasaysayan po natin, lalong-lalo na ngayong 80s, during the time of Marcos to the Cory era, medyo yata nakalimutan. One big factor is that, laging sinasabi po ng ilan sa mga analysts, ang ating guest po daw ay ang isang dapat naging senador na hindi naging senador, dapat maging presidente na hindi naging presidente. Pero siya ay nagpaupo ng mga ilang presidente. Siguro, attorney, nung alala ko nung bata ako noon I was watching the interim Batasang Pambansa. Sabi ko, magaling tong si Member of Parliament, Bono Adasa. When you fight for this, the canvassing of votes. During that time ni Cory Aquino, ano yung role nyo dun sa kanyang pagkaupo bilang Pangulo?
With the installation of Cory, no? That's the regular parliament already. Because during the interim parliament, I got elected, but Marcos refused me to be proclaimed.
That was on the year...
That was in 78.
In 78.
But in this regular parliament, this was in 84. No? In 84, we campaigned all over the country for Cory Aquino, with an agreement with Doy Laurel that Cory will just be ceremonial president and Laurel will govern the country as prime minister together with us. No? And, well, during the battle in the parliament, I was the first one to introduce an impeachment complaint against Marcos. And I told the Speaker of the House, before. No, not Iñiguez yet. The minority floor leader, former Speaker Jose B. Laurel, Pipito, known personally. When I was going around to have the impeachment complaint signed by the opposition leaders, you know, Speaker Laurel told me, "What's the matter with you? Why are you going to file an impeachment complaint against Marcos? This is a game of numbers. We're only 49, they're more than 150. Do not file that complaint." Mr. Speaker, you are wrong there. Because an impeachment is a battle of the hearts and minds of men. I know we will be outvoted by the parliament. They'll win the vote, but we will win the argument.
Okay.
So,
what is your basis on the filing of the impeachment?
so many.
Okay.
That Marcos was utilizing Amendment number 6 in violation of the rights of the people. The human rights violations all over the country. The graft and corruption that was going on. The purchase of several properties by Mrs. Marcos abroad. So these were the basis of the complaint for impeachment, among others. And I campaigned. I made 46 members of parliament who were in the opposition. I didn't finish with everybody. Sign the impeachment complaint. And under the rules at the time, that kind of number would be enough not to go through the Committee on Justice, but to go immediately to the floor. But before I brought the matter to the floor, I went to Speaker Laurel. Said, "Mr. Speaker, I have already the complete signatures of 46 members. I'm just telling you because I'll file this today. You don't have to sign it." The Speaker Laurel said, no, I'll sign it. So he was the 47th signature in the complaint. We argued the case on the floor of the parliament. Of course, we lost the vote. but we won the argument.
Okay,
with the
you
people.
mentioned the votes, the hearts. Now, in the parliament, you were the active warrior during the canvassing.
That's true.
Yeah. As most assemblyman or the member of the parliament are not speaking, it's only you that during that time I was a witness to the television. So what happened then is that you fought so hard for Cory, then no reward again.
Well, I'm not really interested, John. I'm not interested in rewards. I'm not interested in any position in government. I'm interested in opportunity for service for the country and the people. In that particular case, you know,
But the problem there is that lahat nung pinaupo ni Cory, hindi naman nakipaglaban sa kanya.
totoo, lahat yun na nagtatago sa Amerika. They were called state commandos, as a matter of fact. And Cory violated the agreement because she was not supposed to be an active president, but only a ceremonial president, meaning ribbon-cutting president, and Laurel was supposed to be the prime minister, and we would have been the members of the parliament.
Bakit niya binayolate?
Binayolate niya dahil sa mga kamag-anak incorporated, dahil na joker. Ito mga kasama ni Cory. Joker Arroyo, si Chavez, Piping Kuangco was the principal architect of violating the agreement because they knew that if the agreement would continue, Doy would effectively run the country together with us. Because of course, Doy Laurel knew better than Corazon Aquino. Everybody was saying, even Joker was saying that walang alam si Cory. Joker himself, walang alam si Cory.
Is that the reason why sunod-sunod yung kudeta during the Cory administration?
Yes, that was the reason why. Because first, disrespect of the agreement. And second, the Cory presidency was a really non-performing presidency. As a matter of fact, you know, we're being misled by mainstream media and all these people.
But she is the goddess of democracy in the Philippines.
That's a lot of nonsense. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
Without UNIDO, without us in parliament, Cory would not have been installed president. Let me tell you the story. The opposition already wanted to boycott the canvassing, meaning we would walk out before the canvass. 50 out of 58 members, I represented the 8. And I told them, gentlemen, if you want to boycott, I'll respect your views, but you also respect mine. Because my view is if we boycott the parliament, we do not participate in the canvassing, the people and the country will never know what really happened in the election. This is an issue of conscience, and I want to participate. I'll respect your views, you respect mine. I'll go there. You know, Ronyo heard that the decision was not to participate. So, he went to see me. He was the deputy prime minister. He was the deputy speaker of the parliament. He was the minister of interior and local government. And he told me, pare, because he was my friend. No? I don't make enemies out of my opponents in politics. Because, you know, politics is a matter of conscience, of program, and of the heart. No? So, Ronyo told me, pare, why don't you bring back the opposition to the canvassing? What will it take to bring them back?
Pero you ran then during the Grand Alliance for Democracy.
That was after.
That was
yeah,
after.
That was after. And then, let me tell you this story because this is very interesting. Then, Ronyo told me, what will it take us to bring us back to the canvassing? I said, simple. You allow untrammeled coverage by international and local media. And Ronyo said, no, I cannot make that decision. I'll have to talk with the president. I'll get back to you in 2 hours. Because I had a scheme. When Ronyo came back, said, Bono, the president consents to international and local media coverage. Untrammeled. Sabi ko sa sarili ko, patay kayo. You're dead. So I went back to the speaker. Said, Mr. Speaker, they consent to untrammeled coverage. So we better reverse the decision. Okay, you negotiate with them. Negotiation was 3 representatives of the opposition and 3 representatives for the majority in the parliament. You know, I was the one who brought the idea. I was the one who worked out everything. And you know what happened? I was not even designated as one of the 3 principal members of the opposition to argue. But fortunately for me, I was only designated as substitute.
Substitute, yeah.
The following day, when it started, the regular members did not show up. Maybe scared of Marcos. I was the only one who showed up. So the substitute became the regular member of the parliament, and the rest of history.
Okay, attorney. Let's go to the election. You are supposed to be senator. You were cheated, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
In the
87.
87 or 88?
No, it's
87.
The first election
For the-
under martial law. No?
That was a senatorial election.
Senatorial election.
Under the
24. We were supposed to elect 24. And nobody wanted to run. Ting Puyat called me, the president of the Manila Bank, and contacted Enrile, and Kitata said, we better put up a ticket. So I said, yes, we should put up a ticket for the Senate. We have a chance of winning.
And these are giants. Blas Ople, Rene Espina.
Blas Ople,
Daza,
Rene Espina,
Enrile.
Tolentino, Enrile.
Erap was there.
Erap, the giants of Philippine, Eva Estrada Calao, the giants of Philippine politics, who were for the people.
Then you lose to the what?
We lost to the computerized members of the the Cory group, because frankly, the results of that election was 12 for the Grand Alliance, 10 for the Cory group, 2 in serious doubt, but let's give the 2 to them. So it's 50-50. 50-50. But what happened is, I was number 4 in that election. What happened is, Cory computerized the elections. That was the first computerization of the elections. And instead of 12-12, 22 were for Cory and 2 for Grand Alliance, which is Enrile and Erap.
Okay, attorney. Now, we know for the fact that Attorney Adasa per se, sabi nga natin ang isang pangulo na hindi natin natamo at isang senador na hindi rin natin natamo. Siguro sa susunod na bahagi ng ating segment ng ating programang Ang Laging Daan ay kilalanin po natin ng malalim si Attorney Bono Adasa sa kanyang advokasya, lalong-lalo na sa kasalukuyan. Muli mga kaibigan, nakita na po natin at narinig po natin ang ilan sa mga advokasya ni Attorney Bono Adasa mula nung siya ay naging governor, naging assemblyman. Ngayon, sa mga nakakalimot sa kanya, hindi yata naalala at even they could not even recognize Bono Adasa. Attorney Bono Adasa, sino si Bono Adasa ngayon sa kasalukuyan? Anong ginagawa niyo?
Well, I'm writing books,
Yeah.
no, because I want to document the events of my time. No. I also practice law on major and controversial cases, including people who are accused of rebellion of some kind from the military establishment. And I also think and plan for the future of this country.
Sabi, kala ko nga you think and plan for always rebellion.
No, not rebellion. Because I'm through with defending rebels who always lost in their fight.
Kasi when the name Adasa came in, palaging pinag-iisipan kudeta.
Yeah, that's what they always think. But I'm not the kind of person who will pull a coup that will not succeed. If at all, I will pull a coup in the future. And let's not close that possibility. Because tomorrow brings a lot of promises for everybody. If I were to pull a coup, that coup would succeed. Because I believe in what the father of Ferdinand Marcos used to tell him, son, never start a fight which you cannot finish and win. I will not start a fight on that level unless I can win it.
Okay, attorney. From 1987 up to now, we have presidents. Siguro in a simple description, in a simple analysis, we would analyze the different president. Paano nyo i-describe si Cory Aquino sa president?
Cory Aquino is well described by what Joker Arroyo and the others called her, TWA, talaga walang alam. That's true. Everybody was saying, talaga walang alam. Cory didn't know what to do. And her pack of advisors were exploiting her name as you mentioned, the goddess of democracy. But
Who among the
Silver-
advisor is exploiting Cory?
so many of them. Piping as a member of the family, Joker, Chavez, so many of them. I can give you a litany of names, but I'll spare them for the moment because I've written about them anyway in my books.
Okay, Fidel Ramos.
Fidel Ramos, he cannot be a good president in a developing country. You know, by complete staff study. What's he talking about? A president in the words of Henry Kissinger, should know what to do on the first day of office. You don't need a complete staff study, because if you don't know how to be president on the first day of office, according to Kissinger, and I agree with him, you'll never learn until the end of your term. Well, Ramos, a little bit better than Cory, of course, because he finished from which point, and maybe he'll learn from the pitfalls of Cory. No? And besides, this is one thing I mentioned. In fairness to him, he appointed me Commissioner of Immigration, and I stayed there for 3 months. And I told him, Mr. President, please, I will accept this position on one condition. You not intervene in the exercise of my duties. If you do, you have my resignation,
So
irrevocable.
so
And Ramos observed,
3 months only?
3 months only. I didn't like to go beyond 3 months. At the end of his term, I got out with him also, because he even told me whether I like to be to continue with ERAP. I said no, I would not like to continue with ERAP.
Okay, how about Erap Estrada as a president?
ERAP Strada, well, overwhelming majority in the elections, but in fairness to him, he was dubbed as the
Father of the masses?
yeah, as the presidente para sa masa. But namamasa ang masa sa panahon ni ERAP. You really cannot point out to any particular achievement of ERAP.
Kurap ba si Erap?
Well, that's according to Sandigan. I won't say that. According to Sandigan, he was convicted for plunder, so I don't have to say anything more. No, but ERAP is a acquaintance, if not a friend of mine.
Eh si Cory, kurap ba?
No, the administration of Cory was corrupt. Corrupt. It could hold 2-2 with the Marcos administration and the present one.
How about Fidel Ramos?
Well, there was also corruption, of course, during Fidel Ramos, but not as much as during the time of Cory and probably during the time of Marcos. Don't mention to me about Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo.
The next would be Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo.
There was so much corruption. I think corruption acquired a new term, a new meaning under Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. That she was tolerated by everybody.
How would you describe her as a president, GMA?
Well, intelligent.
If Cory is a TWA, ano si GMA?
She was a strong president.
Strong.
She could manage people. She could manage generals. She could manage members of the cabinet. She even managed the Filipino people. But the administration was very corrupt. Corrupt.
Why did you say that the administration of GMA is very corrupt?
Do I have to give proof? all over the place. They are being charged now. The electoral process was corrupt. The running of various contracts was corrupt.
Wala pa naman final conviction, puro kaso pa lang.
Yeah, walang final conviction, but we are not barred from rendering judgments because our judgments are the judgments of history. We who are vocal about our experience with the administrations that have come and gone, we can say this. You know, every time we say that it's a matter of conviction, nobody will ever be convicted in this country except ERAP and a few others. Because I think if ERAP did the right thing, he would not be convicted. That's his problem.
What is supposed to be the thing that Arab should do?
Now?
Then, it was then. During the
Then, yeah. You know, ERAP had a conversation with General Abinina and me. We had a proposal to ERAP. I would not mention it. What's the nature of the proposal? But ERAP rejected the proposal because the people around him were manipulating him. I'll cite to you one particular instance. There would not have been any attempt to get ERAP out. You know, we had a case involving $50 billion of Yamashita treasures. I was the lawyer for the one who owned the land. According to his generals, there is $15 billion deposited in one of the caves here in Bulacan. All right. I won the case up to the Supreme Court. ERAP and I sat down with Laurel and Senator Eva Estrada Calao. You know, we agreed that the government digs out the treasure and then we will watch and he will share half of the treasures with us, with my client. Okay, agreed. You know, 3 days later, he changed his mind. And Mr. Rakala was telling me, malabo daw. Sabi niya, anong malabo? 50-50, malabo ba yan? That's $25 billion each. 25 for the government, 25 for my client. Naging malabo because he was intrigued into believing that since my share of the 25 billion of my client was 7.5 billion, he was told, you know, Adasa's share, this 7.5 billion. He will get 100 million of that, give it to Abinina, and pull a coup against you, and then you will be out as president. You know how crazy is that intrigue? Will anybody like me attempt to pull a coup after I get 7.5 billion?
Okay, Attorney, let's go. Now, the present president, how would you describe him?
Ay, nako.
2 words. One word. One word only.
One chord?
One word. How do you describe the president?
Incompetent.
Well,
It's the word.
incompetent.
First, look at the decisions that he has made since he became president. Hindi ba? First, even in his inaugural speech at the Luneta, imagine, he just greet Corona, who was Chief Justice. You know, there's a term in Spanish, lo cortés no quita lo valiente. Being courteous does not make you any less valiant. Second, his vice president arrived later than him, and gave the impression that he was the president, and he not. And then, the appointments to many sensitive positions of government were all members of the K Club, Kabarilan.
If you are a competent president in terms of diagnosis, what is the remedy?
The remedy, I am writing him a letter next week. I hope you can sign it. I hope you can sign it, but I'll not reveal it yet now. The remedy is of system changes. Because it's not only Pinoy who is a problem. Congress is a problem. The judiciary is a problem. The executive is a problem. Where are the remedies?
So the system is the problem.
Of course, the system is the problem. But the personalities holding the levers of the system are also problems. Because even if you have a good car, if this fellow who's the driver doesn't know how to drive, you'll end up in the canal, hindi ba? Okay. Now, what are the remedies? Remedies are contained in Section 1 and Section 3 of Article 2 of the Constitution.
Yeah.
You know that. You know that. And probably everybody who knows Constitution know that.
So, remind us again, what is Section 1?
Section 1 states, the Philippines is a democratic and republican state. Sovereignty resides in the people, and all government authority emanates from them. Example, EDSA 1, EDSA 2. Okay. Section 3 of Article 2. Civilian authority is always supreme over the military. That's the general rule. The armed forces of the Philippines is the protector of the people and the state. Its goal is to secure national sovereignty and national integrity.
Okay, Attorney, in a few minutes that we have right now, all these leaders, they have all problems. If we would go to that remedy, we need a leader that would really have all the traits that would really run a country. The problem there would be, palagi na lang ganito nangyari, wala pang nagbabago
This is a country of 95 million Filipinos. Singapore produced Lee Kuan Yew, Goh Chok Tong, Lee Hsien Loong. Israel, 3 million. Israel had 3 million. Ben Gurion, Golda Meir. Small countries like Cuba, smaller than these other countries I mentioned, produced Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
And a smaller country in Africa, a leader, Muammar Gaddafi, stayed there for 40 years. Leaders who have vision of what the country should be. Leaders who have discipline. Leaders who are committed to the people and to the country. Leaders who are brilliant. And leaders who know what to do.
Okay.
That's the leader we want.
Okay, we're now in a few seconds, Attorney, of our program. Anong message nyo sa ating mga viewers?
My message is, don't lose hope. There will be changes in this land, systemic changes, and we'll have a new set of leaders. Because for yesterday is but a dream, in the words of Kalidasa, and tomorrow a vision. But today we live makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Let's have that vision, and let's have that hope, and let's have the discipline to really work for our goals.
Okay, attorney, maraming salamat. Alam niyo po mga kaibigan, sabi nga ni attorney, let us dream. Let us strive hard. Let us study, read books, and even look at an analysis of historical facts. Minsan ang problema po mga kaibigan ng ating kasaysayan, ng ating mga mag-aaral ay hindi na pinag-aaralan ang totoong esensya ng pagiging Pilipino. At sa puntong yan, yung laging daan na lamang na sinasabi natin na, pwede na yan huwag na natin baguhin ito. Alam niyo po, maraming mga Pilipino ang may kakayanang mamuno sa ating bayan, pero hindi po natin binibigyan ng atensyon. Minsan po sa sistema ng eleksyon, sabi nga natin hinahayaan natin ang kandidato magpakilala sa atin, pero hindi natin kinikilala ang mga kandidato. Minsan pumapasok sa isipan natin kung ano yung konsepto ng patriotismo. Sabi nga ngayon, ano ba yung patriotismo? Love of country. Sana nga po yung patriotismo ay maging patriotismo, hindi na maging patriotismo. Mga kaibigan, ito po yung lingkod, Dr. John Ortiz Tiope. Ito po ating programang Ang Laging Daan.